Joining us on the program to talk more about this is Tom Pyle. He's the president of the Institute for Energy Research, and he's speaking tonight on behalf of EnergyTownHall.org. Tom, how are you?
Doing fine. How are you tonight?
Doing very good. So, Tom, especially here in Ohio, where there's lots of fracking going on and things have been going well with that. Speak specifically to Ohio, Tom, of how this carbon tax will affect us here in the Great Buckeye State.
Well, look, the first thing is that it will further stifle production because it's basically adding to the cost of producing here at home. So, the price is low as it is, and we're already seeing a lot of unemployment now in the oil sector. Mm-hmm. In the oil patch, you're going to see people factor, if this were to pass, you'd see people factor that into the cost of doing business and say, you know what, I'm not going to put up that well because I can't recoup my investment on it. So you see less economic activity. The other thing is that we're all going to pay for it at the end of the day. Like the president proposed recently a $10 per barrel tax on oil, right?
Right.
It ain't going to go to the oil companies. They're going to pass that down in the form of a tax on our gasoline. So now we're paying... what are we paying right now for gasoline? $1.79?
Yeah, $1.79, $1.75 here in Tri-State, yeah.
Add a quarter to that right off the top.
Wow.
Add 25 cents to that. That would be the equivalent to what the president's new oil tax
25 cents. Well, and here's the deal, Tom. Obviously, right now when gas is low, people are like, oh, what's a few cents? No big deal. But when gas eventually goes back up, and I mean, it can't stay like this forever. When you're starting getting around over $2, $2.50, around over $3, now all of a sudden adding another quarter onto that, you go, my God, now we're back to where we were in 2008, 2009.
That's right, and the president wants to impose it now because people may not feel it now.
Right.
Once that tax is imposed, it's never going away. When's the last time you were taxed and that tax was taken away?
It's never happened in the history of the world, Tom. I don't think.
Bingo. Exactly right. Now here's the other thing. This hurts poor people the most. It slams. It's a gut punch to the people who are on lower economic scale because we all have to spend a certain amount of our budgets on energy, right? Mm-hmm. We all have to pay for our utility bills. We all have to pay for our gasoline to fill our car. People who make less every year have to spend a higher percentage of their income on that stuff. And so for an administration that claims to be out for the little guy, he's punching the little guy in the pocketbook with these taxes.
Tom, who's pushing this on the administration? Obviously, we all know, the green energy, which I think is a racket. I call them the green energy gangsters out there, that donate to the campaigns of the Democrats and Obama, et cetera, are pushing this. Is that who's behind this deal? I mean, why does Obama want this clean energy? I mean, look, Tom, we all want clean energy. No one wants a planet full of pollution, but this seems to be going about it the wrong way. They're not helping any green energy. They're trying to cripple again a major sector of our entire economy.
That's right. What the president and his administration has done for years, and he's not shy about it. He's very overt about it. Is try to make it harder and harder to produce the sources of energy that are affordable and reliable. In exchange for that, he's been pumping billions of hours. So we pay twice. We pay taxes, and they take our taxes and hand it over to these companies and the individuals, by the way, who bundle campaign contributions to these politicians. And then we pay again because those energy sources are more expensive. So they're picking our left pocket and our right pocket with these policies. And by the way, they're not improving the environment. While these politicians in Washington have been talking about how we need to fix the climate crisis, our emissions in this country have been reduced steadily over the past 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. We're cleaner than we were when they started this big debate. And that isn't because of their policies, because they haven't even finished enacting their policies. It is because of the stuff that you guys are producing in Ohio. Right. It's because natural gas is a cleaner burning fuel. And so, this is about what you just said. It's about rewarding their friends, their campaign contributors. It's about about cronyism. It's not about helping, making the planet better or greener.
Tom Pyle joining us. He's the president of the Institute for Energy Research. He's here tonight on behalf of EnergyTownHall.org. Tom, talk a little bit more about that, because that's always a part of the racket. Oh, well, it's going to help climate change. I, for one, am not a big believer in the whole climate change thing at all. But so how will putting this carbon tax on actually not get any more greenhouse gases, any more pollution, anything out of the environment?
Well, so the administration has pushed this rule out called the Clean Power Plan, quote unquote. The rule would basically force states to reduce their emissions by shutting down coal plants and replacing them with wind and solar. Okay, the EPA has admitted that the rule, if enacted fully, in other words, if they were to get it through the courts, which is very questionable, would do nothing to reduce global average temperatures. But they say, well, that's okay because we need to show leadership. So what they're basically doing is tying America's hand behind its back, while the rest of the world is free to continue to do what they're doing, which is grow their economy.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing I've always had against, what was it, a couple months ago, Obama goes over to that climate change summit, and everyone, meets and talks, and there's a bunch of nothing going on. And it's the same old song and dance with America, where it's like America you have to cut this, and this. In none of the other countries who are, by and large, the major polluters, they're not expected to do anything. How does this make sense to anybody?
Well, it makes sense, I guess, if you're a bureaucrat, but a lot of us are not. I mean, It's illogical. I mean, look, the bottom line is that we are emitting less CO2 than China today, and that is because of technology. That is because we're doing more with less. And China has a right to grow their economy as well, but the difference is that their technology is behind us. They don't have the same level of wealth that we have. Wealth is what a rich nation is, a nation that does more to protect their environment. So these economies have to grow and get wealthy, and they will begin to do what we're doing in this country, which is being a cleaner, leaving it better than what we had, in our previous generation.
Tom, talk about this. How close is this to coming down the pipeline? I also want to ask you about with Justice Scalia passing away, and now the potential of a maybe liberal justice going into the Supreme Court. Does that affect anything at all, Tom? Because there's so many of these cases that have been 6-5. Guns have been 6-5 lately. Another one of Obama's energy policies was a 6-5 vote. Now, because of that, Tom, does that get switched over? And now does this energy thing, a carbon tax they want to push down our throats, is this more imminent now, Tom?
Yeah, thank you for asking, because this is a very significant development. God rest his soul, Justice Scalia was part of a 5-4 decision that basically told the EPA, stop work now. You cannot push this climate carbon tax down our throats because it is on shaky legal ground, and we are going to review this case. Unfortunately, Scalia passed, and you did mention there's a number of cases where the Supreme Court was going to decide, in essence, the fate of President Obama's legacy, because the president has basically said, I don't need to work with Congress. I'm a king. Yeah. I can do whatever I want to. And the Supreme Court was prepared this year to make major decisions about a lot of the things that the president has been pushing forward. I don't know what the outcome is going to be here. The Senate Majority Leader has said that the voters of Ohio, the voters of America, are the ones who should decide the makeup of the Supreme Court. In other words, Bingo. Wait until this election. We'll see how it shakes out. They've said a lot of things in the past and kind of cowered at the end of the day, but we're hopeful that they will stay strong on this because it's a very big deal.
Tom, how do you see all this coming down in terms of if they did try to go about a carbon tax? Obviously, a lot of things the government tries to force down our throat. It happens incrementally, right? It's never like they don't try to go for the home run right out of the gate. But I've done some research, and you see, Jerry Brown in California wants to push carbon taxes and clean energy, this and that. I believe Washington State is currently trying to do the same thing. How do you see it all going down from the state level and then to the federal level?
Yeah, great question. So that's kind of the game, right? So the Californias and the Washingtons of the world do this, and then a lot of companies say, we do business in California, we got to comply with their standards. It's very confusing. It's very difficult. Why don't we just harmonize this thing, right? Why don't we just smooth it out over all the states? So then they kick it over to the feds and say, you got to come up with a national program here, right? So maybe they'll put in a small carbon tax, right? Like, say, $10 a ton or whatever of CO2 emissions. That's the sort of foot in the door, right? And then once they get it set up and established, they can dial it up whenever they want to. And that's the big threat here, exactly what you said, is this incrementalist approach to this thing, right? Look, a carbon tax, carbon dioxide is a byproduct of energy and life. If we tax this thing, that is a potential gold mine in tax revenue for the government to spend on their social programs. It's too great of a sort of big prize, that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, for Republicans potentially to resist as well. So we're very worried about this. We don't ever want to see the federal government or state governments in any state impose these things on us families, because we believe that it'll just careen out of control if it gets enacted even in the smallest manner.
Tom, last question before I let you go. What can we, the little guys, do? I mean, obviously, other than not vote for a Democrat who's going to put a liberal Supreme Court justice on the Supreme Court. Other than that, Tom, what can we do to make sure we're ahead of this thing?
Pay attention. Your listeners, if they care about energy issues like this, they can log into energytownhall.org and follow along, and we give them tools to participate and comment and weigh in the political process. You got a governor running for president, find out where he is on this issue, find out where your senators are. There's a re-election in Ohio. Just keep talking about it and ask them where they stand. Put them on the record on these issues. It's really important.
Very good. Tom, we appreciate your time. Great information. We'll talk soon, okay?
You betcha.
Thanks very much. That was Tom Pyle, president of the Institute for Energy Research.